And along with the rest of America, we are rooting for you.
Swedish prosecutors have dropped lesser sexual misconduct cases against WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange, but he's still wanted for questioning in a rape investigation. Assange took refuge in the Ecuadorian embassy in London 3 years ago in order to avoid extradition. Frank Sedapani, CBS.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240. Live from Chattanooga, Tennessee, it's Nooganomics with David Toulis.
You know, some days you just have a good presentation, a good setup, a good lineup of things that you are offering to your customer, or in my case, to my reader. And the story at Nooganomics.com today touches on University of Tennessee system in Knoxville and the rise of the number of students who are attending that subsidized school. The story is at the website of uttoday.utk.edu, the kind of newsletter of the university, and it says that there are more freshmen in the class. There is a rise in the ACT score, and so on. But the thing that is worth writing about is the Pride Center, renamed from an earlier center that was founded in 2010. That's called the Outreach LGBTQ Plus and Ally Resource Center. And so I said, okay, well, what is LGBT is a host? It is something that I stumble over. I have a tongue that's tied on some arrangements of consonants and vowels. So what I do is I take the easy way out. I say, well, what does LGBT do by way of a word? Can I make a word out of it? And that word is most naturally lug butt. And Q has been added to that string of four consonants, I and A. So Q is queer, I is intersex, and A is asexual. So the people in the photograph in Knoxville have a Pride Center, and their excitement is for, of course, pride in being homosexuals or having an identity connected with their homosexual activities. And there is a great excitement, and there'll be an opening, kind of an official opening of this place in October. It's on Melrose Hall Courtyard, and there'll be some changes celebrated there. And my question is, well, what is happening to the word queer? The word queer is, I would like to suggest to you, a phantom asset, and that is very much like the assets that are in the market today, even in the market in China, which has prompted for 2 days straight a devaluation of the yuan, the Chinese paper currency. In our country, we have an equally scabrous form of currency called the Federal Reserve note, and assets are denominated in that. And the assets, particularly in the public markets, in the secondary markets, are very, very high rated. In other words, it takes a lot of dollars, so-called, to buy them. There's a bubble being created by the Federal Reserve System with its mechanism. The mechanism to create bubbles is unavoidable, and that's all the Fed can do, is create bubbles in the economy. It can't really regulate the economy, but it can create huge wealth for people who play on the bubble in its inception and its rise. And that, of course, is the zero interest rate policy. The interest rates are just about zero, meaning that money is free. And we need to have a lot more money right away by the lending process so that we can all become rich. Well, in the creation of all these assets that are bought into existence and created, at high risk, right? High risk for you and low risk for the people who are doing the gaming of the system. There is a creation of what we could call a phantom asset. So we have debts on the books of lenders that look good. They sure sound fine. You have office complexes and apartment complexes. Maybe some of those here in Chattanooga. and ambitious developments, and the companies are developing new products and software, and people are all clamoring for capital, and many of them are getting it. And of course, much of that capital, the billions that are earned playing on the paper money markets, goes into stock buybacks and M&A, which is mergers and acquisitions, which is at a peak. There is a peak of mergers and acquisitions right now. Most of them, I would like to think, if I'm reading David Stockman's book correctly, most of them are paid for by assets which are borrowed into existence, right? So these M&A mergers in the corporate sector are hugely leveraged. And what happens is there's a merger or a buyout, and the raiders, if you will, saddle the company with gigantic debts that it can't pay, and they leave, as Mitt Romney did many times, they leave with millions of dollars in profit, sometimes even billions. And that whole sector is you might say a bubble, and it's a bubble like the word queer. Okay, the word queer is in a bubble. It is a word which has often been an epithet. In other words, if you don't like someone, you call them a queer, right? You know, teenage boys often will say, "Oh, that's so gay." You know, they're laughing at some colleague for doing something a little effeminate or a little odd, and they say, "Oh, that's so gay." Well, the word queer is the predecessor of that diminutive use of the word gay, and the word queer is a derogatory and hurtful term, according to Newaof.com today, in its post that talks about the connection between the rise of the value of the word queer and the bubble economy and the markets. There's not a direct correlation, of course, in these two narratives, that of the paper money economy, that of the bubble economy in Manhattan, and the word queer, but they're very similar. And what I'd like you to think about is how UT is buying shares now, and it wants everybody to buy queer shares now, and buy also intersex shares, and also A shares. A shares, I guess that means A quality, right? The highest quality you can get are the asexual shares. Well, what is asexual shares? Well, Newaof.com is telling us that intersex refers to, quote, someone whose physical sex characteristics are not categorized as exclusively male or exclusively female. Now, what about asexual? Now, I thought there were certain kinds of plants growing here in local economy gardens that had asexual reproduction. Well, there are, and I'm sure there's some various molds that have asexual reproduction. But people, well, asexual refers to a person who is not attracted to anyone, or a person who does not have a sexual orientation. Now, I really would like to know how a university, which is supposed to tell us how we're going to build American civilization, can make such a claim with official sanction. What can you learn at UT that you couldn't learn on the internet, right? And well, this report at Newaof.com, which is of which I'm editor. I'm the mild-mannered editor of that website, formerly with Newsprint Inc. on his fingers, having been for nearly 25 years a copy editor at the Chattanooga Times Free Press. So I have this background, and I'm reporting on this issue. Now, so what's the point then about gay shares? Well, the gay market is in a bubble. It's in a bubble that peaked, I would like to think, last summer, in the summer of 2014, and it peaked before, as everyone was anticipating Obergefell versus Hodges being for gays, right? Redefining marriage as we're supposed to believe it happened with that ruling. Of course, it really didn't. That opinion has no authority in Tennessee whatsoever. It has none. It has no authority. And yet our political establishment, largely Republican, of course, pretends that it does. And it pretends that it has no control over the fate of the state. Well, okay, so we have this. The word queer is in a bubble. And what that means is there's an artificial wind underneath it. That's called, in French, it's called subvention, which means subvention, which is a word in English. You don't see it very regularly, but the translations of some of the French libertarian writers of the 19th century use that word, subvention. And again, the idea is that there's wind underneath. Vent is the word for wind. You know, like to vent your anger. When you're venting your anger, you are breathing out your anger, right? That you're breathing. There's wind coming out of you. So vent, V-E-N-T, is the word for wind or breeze, and a subvention is wind underneath something. So you have the word queer, which has been raised from the subprime market by the whole 20-year orgasm of lobbying and activism by the gay lobby. And now it's at the top, right? It peaked last summer, and now the shares are going down very slightly, just kind of going down, down, down. And well, there'll be some crises ahead. There'll be some meltdowns in that market. But think of this. Think of the parallel. It is a word. It is an epithet. It is a kind of criticism. If I say that you're a queer, well, I'm really being very mean. It's like using the N word, right? Well, but notice what's happened. The word queer now is officially sanctioned. It is a word that you can use. You, my listener, can say, you can talk about queers all you want, and there's no hatred in your heart at all. There's no despising anybody. There's no bitterness against anybody. There's no bigotry involved in the word queer, and we can do that because the gay activists, the gay lobby, the young men and women who think that finding their true selves in bed with a man of a member of the same sex is true fulfillment. They want that word to be applied to them. They want to claim the grungy. They want to claim the dirty. That's just like the subprime shares that were repackaged into securities worldwide prior to 2008 and the meltdown. It's the same thing. You have rising value of these securities. Everybody thinks they're good. No one really looks inside, right, to know how many bad mortgages are packed into a $5 million security sold on the bond exchange, right, or maybe in Shanghai. And so we have these values, these assets. The queer being a kind of security, right, a kind of piece of paper that has fine writing on it. And we look at it and think, wow, that's really great. It's really worth something. But I wonder is it really worth what we make of it, and really what UT makes of it. There are, if you're a university that can talk about trans people, well, you're a university that's got some real problems. And it makes me ask you, my listener, why do you think that it's maybe a good thing to have your child go to a tax subsidized university where trans people are viewed as valuable assets, when indeed, I would like to suggest to you, they are merely the worst of subprime car loans, packaged, made to look attractive, and presented with fine brochures with color photographs on the front. That is what you have. Well, my name is David Toulis, and our show here is every day, every weekday at 9 o'clock. I do thank you for giving me a couple of minutes of your time. We are at AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio, and our station is about the marketplace. We are the station that defends local economy. We are the station that's making an issue as far as any media platform can, an issue of free markets and local economy, free markets and local economy. And the story, if you want to find out more about lug butt and queer and intersex and asexual, you can go to UT's website. Again, queer is an umbrella term which embraces a variety of sexual preferences, orientations, and habits of those, we are told at a gay website, those who do not adhere to the heterosexual and cisgender majority. Okay, so you, my listener, you are a cisgender person. Okay, just face it. Just admit the category, admit it, embrace it, love it. And we'll all be happy together here in Chattanooga and Hamilton County. The term queer includes, but is not exclusive to lesbians, gay men, bisexuals, trans people, and intersex persons. Traditionally, this term is derogatory and hurtful. There we go. That's the that's the phantom asset phase of this word. However, many people do not adhere to sexual and or gender norms. Use it to self-identify in a positive way. Well, listen, if you ever see me self-identifying, you make sure I know that I'm doing that, and I'll try to put a stop to it right away. This is David Toulis, and I hope you can remember my name. I tell you what, if you are my listener here at Hot News Talk Radio, go and have lunch today at a great little restaurant. It's Delia's. In fact, I went by there yesterday and said hello to Maria Hernandez and got some tacos, just delicious tacos. I had to stop driving around to eat them. And the restaurant is Delia's Authentic Mexican Restaurant. The special today is the taco platter. It's number 28 on the menu, $1 off. mention my name or the radio station, right? Just mention the radio station as if there were only one, and she'll give you a free iced tea. So think about that. She's got a great selection, a great little outfit there. It's a very unpretentious, solid Mexican American restaurant, and I do urge you to take advantage of her and her fine offices as cook and proprietress of Delia's restaurant. Well, something that I think I'm talking here about UT's gay swagger, and it's tooting its horn here at the top of the gay market. Of course, UT is buying, right? UT buying at the top of the market. But what I think is really important is a story that has been developed only on my website here in Chattanooga, and also to a very slight degree at Chattanooga, and thanks to John Wilson. But the story today is to be found at Newaof.com, and it is about the idea that you, my listener, and 9 other men or women. I know you're not. I know you're a guy, but let's say this is a guy thing. Okay, we guys need to start taking charge of our country, maybe, and our state, maybe. So you and 9 other guys, my listener, can form a committee effectively, and you are relators. A relator is a person who acts on behalf of the state itself, right? That religious entity, that mystic body of the state, whom we're always offending with our paperwork offenses and our failure to follow the rules and so on. We represent the entities as 10 men or more, and what do? Well, we sue. We file a complaint and a petition in Hamilton County Chancery Court. I would think Chancery Court is where this case should be heard, because the law about the relator power says that the rules of chancery apply in whichever court the petition is filed. It could be filed in circuit court. It could be filed in Chancery Circuit or criminal court. Maybe if one is going to try to unseat Governor Haslam by a group of its own self, could file it in criminal court, because in many ways it seems that Governor Haslam's rejection of his constitutional duty and his slapping God in the face by not defending the people of our state, defending our Constitution, is at least a quasi-criminal matter. Now, the suit that the relators file is at equity, so that means it's a matter of equity is where you'd settle a car wreck case. Okay, if you had a dispute with someone over a contract provision and you couldn't iron out your differences and you went to court over it, well, that's done in equity. Equity is the idea of fair play, fairness, and justice. And the Bible, the Christian scriptures, are the home and source of equity worldwide. And the 10 Commandments are perhaps the best summation of the concepts of equity. Again, equity is justice, compensation, payment, right dealing, and the solving of woes and wounds and stripes by an equal compensation. All right, that's what equity implies. It is true justice, and I would say that Christianity has probably the best claims on understanding true justice. All other versions of justice, such as social justice, these are just very distorted images of the Christian ideal. Well, the suit against the governor by 10 men who are representing the state itself, who file suit as relators. That means to say the suit, as I say at Newaof.com, is styled State of Tennessee ex rel, and then your name, okay, your name and the name of your neighbor and the name of his friend at church, right? You get 10 people together. State of Tennessee ex rel, you, maybe me, maybe David Toulis could be number 2, versus Governor William Haslam. That's the styling of the case, and it's filed with Jeff Atherton's court or Pam Fleener's court here in Hamilton County. And what are you doing? Well, you're making allegations that he has violated his oath of office, and the discussion of this very important law, a law that has been, I don't think it's been used. I do not know of a case that has been used. My copy of the Tennessee Code annotated has negligible comments about its usage or references to this law. So it hasn't been used by the people of Tennessee, as if they didn't know it was there, as if they didn't know that the law was there. It's called the Relator law. And what it does, it allows for the people, without having to wait for the General Assembly to impeach anybody, to sue with the help of the Attorney General, to sue the governor. And do what? To throw him from office. The court would be the deciding agent in the case. However, if there is a dispute of facts, Judge Atherton would invoke a jury, and the jury would determine the facts. So if all the facts of the case can be stipulated between you and your 9 fellows on the committee and the governor's defense attorney, the facts are stipulated, well, then you don't have to argue. You don't have to have a jury trial, right? Jury trials are occasioned when there's a difference in the facts. Now, if there's no difference in the facts, then the question is law. Was the law abolished by the governor? Was the law disobeyed by the governor? Whether it was done in good faith or bad faith is really beside the point. Did he honor his oath of office? That's the question. And the whole gay theory, of course, says it doesn't matter. We have a national definition of marriage. It comes out of Obergefell versus Hodges. Haven't you read the paper about that? They would say. Well, you read the paper. We all read about it. And some people, read the whole case. And what did the governor do? He said, well, I guess it's out of our hands now. We've made our oaths of office, but this federal department, this number 3 federal department, the judiciary branch of the federal government, has determined that what we have always had authority over is now not in our authority anymore. And we're just going to have to say that Jim and Joe can marry. We're going to have to let there be a celebration at UT in this very, very important center of academic excellence, formerly called the Outreach LGBTQ+ and Ally Resource Center.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Hi, I'm Rebecca Costa, host of the Costa Report, every Sunday at 9 a.m. My guest this week was the former U.S. ambassador to Russia and special assistant to President Obama, Mr. Michael McFaul. He'll be here to separate fact from fiction when it comes to Putin's aspirations for Russia. Don't miss Ambassador Michael McFaul this Sunday at 9 a.m. on the Costa Report, right here on WSDT AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio.
When my brother and I opened our first Jets Pizza, we believed if we made the best pizza, customers would find us. So we made fresh dough each day, used fresh toppings, and premium mozzarella cheese. 300+ stores later, we still do.
Try Jet's famous 8-corner pizza with premium mozzarella cheese and 1 topping, now just $11.99 for a limited time only. Jet's Pizza, the best pizza in town. 3600 Hickson Pike.
Life is short. Eat better pizza.
Let's get Jets. You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
We've got a table here at Delia's in Saudi Daisy, ready to delight in a plate of authentic Mexican food. Delia's spreads a rich selection: loaded nachos, crazy chicken, homemade tamales, maybe the enchiladas with beef, chicken, pork, quesadillas. Every dish beautifully pictured on the menu to help us decide. Join us for lunch or dinner. We're at Delia's in Saudi Daisy on Dayton Pike near the Thrasher Light. Here's dinner. Delia's uses the freshest ingredients, cooked to perfection. Nachos, homemade. Delia's open every day except the Lord's Day. For lunch and dinner, treat yourself to Delia's genuine Mexican food. In Saudi, call 521-7145. That's 521-7145.
Do you feel better outside your home or business than in? Indoor air quality is important. Mildew, mold, smoke, water, and rodent damage are prime causes of poor indoor air quality. Ducts, Indoor Air Professionals, better known as Duct Busters, cleans HVAC systems using 127 definable Duct Busters steps. Let Mark Thompson address the indoor air quality at your business to help reduce employee illnesses. Prevent fires by cleaning your dryer vents. Mark and his parents, Dick and Joan Thompson, have been building our local economy and helping local people with HVAC systems 16 years. Ducts, Indoor Air Professionals. Call 876-9907. 876-9907. Ducks. Call now.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Here comes Dale Earnhardt Jr. He's got third. He's going for second. Earnhardt going for the lead.
The NASCAR Sprint Cup Series is on the Motor Racing Network. Coverage continues Sunday here at Live on the Motor Racing Network, the voice of NASCAR.
Check it out live on Chattanooga's official NASCAR radio station.
News Talk 1240.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
If the South would have won, we'd have had it made. I'd probably run for president of the southern states. The day Elvis passed away would be our national holiday. If the South would have won, we'd have had it made.
NASCAR, Laura Ingram, David Toulis, Coast to Coast AM, and CBS Radio News. Chattanooga's news, talk, and sports leader.
News Talk 1240.
Fox News Radio, I'm Lillian Wu. 50 people are dead, more than 700 hurt after massive blasts in a Chinese port city.
This was the moment disaster struck. Two explosions at a warehouse thought to be holding volatile and toxic chemicals, including cyanide. The blast so strong, the shock waves felt by earthquake monitoring centers, and the flash said to be visible from space.
Fox Radio's Alistair Wanklin. The death of a 19-year-old during an attempted drug bust, now the focus of a Justice Department investigation.
Zachary Hammond was shot by Lieutenant Mark Tiller in Seneca, South Carolina on July 26th. The officer says he fired because he felt threatened as the teen drove his car at him. The teen's family says autopsy reports show he was shot through the driver's side from behind, indicating there was no danger to the officer.
Fox Radio's Tanya J. Powers. And first-time claims for jobless help last week up to 274,000. Monthly average falling to a 15-year low. Fox News, we report, you decide.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Live from Chattanooga, Tennessee, it's Nuganomics with David Toulis.
There's a great book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki, who went on to create a whole business empire based on the concept of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and also the game, I think the game is called Cash Flow, in which you learn how to run a business. And he tells about how his rich dad tempted him back in the late 50s, and he was a boy, tempted him with either two options. One, to be on his payroll and to earn 25 cents an hour, or to work for him without pay and learn how he ran his business. And Kiyosaki's dad was the poor dad, a man who worked, I believe, in the university system of Hawaii, and had probably a very large paycheck, probably past $90,000, and yet was a poor man, being taxed heavily and not very happy, always feeling very poor. So how is it that the rich dad convinced Robert to work without pay and to learn the business that he had? A multiple entrepreneur who had several shops and gas stations and laundromats going all at the same time, and Robert went with him and sat in on his meetings, his staff meetings, his phone calls, his dealings with suppliers, and so on. And what he learned is what our news director here at AM 1240 is learning. He's learning the business from the inside. And that the news director is named Russell, and he's 20 years old. He started at our radio station at the very beginning in God's providence, when he wasn't even able to drive himself. But now he's been at it for 2.5 years, maybe about 3 years, and is learning everything he needs to know about owning a radio station, which I, in God's good grace, do here, and I'm glad you're giving me a few minutes of your time. We are exploring local economy and the free market, and we offer a university education in the real, okay, which is to say, stern talks about style, stern talks about how to do your job, how to give the news, how to understand the news, what is news, how to deal with the customer of your business. Now, my customer is you, and the wonders about the airwaves are that you don't have to pay me a dime for all my exertions. It's all free to you, and that's the great wonder about the marketplace system. Everybody can have his benefit, and for some he has to pay, but for others it is just free. Of course, you bear with my advertisers as they tell you about who they are, and what they can do for you. For example, Bruce Krebs. My argument for you, my listener, is to be an entrepreneur, to own a business of your own devising, of your own genius, perhaps based on years of experience in your field and insights as to how players in your field are being underserved in a couple of crucial areas. And your effort now needs to be to create a business that serves those areas. And you can still do it while you're employed with your current boss, right? Your plan B is your plan as consultant, doing this on the side, and then eventually scaling back your hours, and then finally jumping ship. Well, Bruce Krebs will help get you into a business to have a plan B. That's his whole goal. He is our host here at Entrepreneur Hour every other Wednesday at AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. Bruce runs Entrepreneur Source. The number to get an appointment with him is 875-5621. That's 875-5621. Call him today. Call him now. Call him today. Get on his calendar and ask him to help you. You don't have to pay him a dime, right? He's a consultant who's paid by franchisors if you become the franchisee. My name is David Toulis, and this is the number 4 show. Russell has the number 1 show, our news director at age 20, who stands in the studio without his shoes on. Now I'm standing here, if you don't happen to know, with a sawed-off bow tie and a jacket, and I always make myself very presentable because this is radio after all, and you, my listener, are the most important person I know. And so I'm very glad you're giving me a minute or two of your time today, and do call Bruce Krebs. Now, if you want to get a leg up and have a plan B in our coming national disaster, you need to think very seriously about things like this. Now we're going to talk with Hal Bowling in a few minutes about Launch Chattanooga, and one of his graduates is David Redd. David Redd runs Quick Surge. He's a physician, a specialist in not sure gallbladder, this specialty that he has in his regular insurance taking line. But Quick Surge is following the local economy theory in a most delightful way. And Hal Bowling is going to tell us how people can find ways of serving. And his goal is to help people with disadvantaged backgrounds, as we say, people who with a poorly background, people who have been trapped in the public school world. His goal is to help them find a way into the marketplace and to think in terms of the market. These are lessons, these are ideals that Robert Kiyosaki learned as a boy. His education came from his rich dad, who didn't pay him. Right? His education was in his knowledge, his savvy, his insight into that entrepreneur's business. But we are under the sway of public education, and we don't account anymore. We don't know how to think. Now, if you run a small business, you might need someone to help you with your counting. There's a counting house here in Chattanooga run by Eric Pelton. That's EJ Pelton Company. He is the numbers guy. And he does taxes, he does accounts, he manages cash flow. If you've got that kind of a problem in your business, if you have a problem with the IRS, Eric Pelton is the man to help you. Again, Eric Pelton is his name, a CPA. The website is ejpelton.com, ejpelton.com, and it's the number is 622-3156, 622-3156. We're brought to you by Jet Pizza and Superior Air, the great orange vans that drive around fixing air conditioning units, and in the dead of winter, heating units. That's Superior Air. Think about calling Superior if you have a need. Well, the idea of people having to learn entrepreneurship from groups and organizations is lamentable. That's necessary is what's lamentable. It's good that Launch Chattanooga and groups like it are there to help, but we've lost the connection in the family or from the family with business. In other words, in the past generations, you, my listener, would have learned a business from the inside out by going with your dad. Or your mom. Your mom ran a store. You would learn everything about her books, her suppliers, her debts, her transactions, her marketing. You would learn it all, and that would be your education. Just as here at our radio station, Russell, the kid, he's not just news director, but he's the intern, right? He's learning everything from the inside, and that is his. You might say I'm his rich dad, even though he's not paid, right? He's not paid. He doesn't pay me either. His value accrues between his ears, as knowledge. The public school world is highlighted today in the Chattanooga Times Free Press on page 1. And when we read stories like this, we need to see that there's really a different story, not the way it's presented. The newspaper and the press, the media can't tell you things that are there. They're simply, that's not their office. It's not the office of the newspaper to apprise you of the real situation of public schools or the fact that these are legacy systems, extremely capital intensive systems, which they're going to fail. They're going to be bypassed by the marketplace, in light of the fact that we have an amazing thing called the internet, and the internet is putting many old systems to shame, including newspapers and even old media platforms such as radio. A radio station by itself can't function anymore. It has to be a media platform. And that's what we do. I'm the editor of Newaof.com, the premier website that has the tiniest audience in Chattanooga for a good reason. And it deserves a tiny audience. I want you to know that it's not for everybody. It might be for you, but you get everything you need from this show. So, but if you're not getting everything you need from the other media, then you'll go to Newaof.com. It is the website for the man who matters, and therefore, since very few people really matter, it deserves a very tiny circulation. And I've been content with that. I've been content with that phenomenon of being, you might say, the minority report. Giving brisk insights into law, culture, and the great joys of Christianity. Well, public school doesn't care about any of that. Public school is a system that's grinding for another year now here in Chattanooga and Hamilton County. The rising generation. The rising generation, you have to understand, has to be made what it's going to be. And I was at a paint business yesterday, and the two owners were sitting around there at the end of the day when I came in and thrust my attractive Hot News Talk Radio flyer into their hands and my business card. One of the men I knew, and they were both lamenting how young people are unwilling to work. Even one of them, his own son, caught up in the educational or the schooling world, is unwilling to work, has no great gifts. Is not made to strain against necessity. That's how people learn their field, is they have to. There's no choice. There's no playing around. There's no dodging off to play a game or making a phone call or sending text or watching something on a screen. There's no time for that. Your family depends on you doing this thing for your family, bringing in a check at the end of the day or bringing in some receipts at the end of the day to pay for the groceries. That's the necessity that makes people really work. But our modern generation, where everything has been borrowed into existence, doesn't have that clamor of need. And this painter, a very reputable painter, and his partner sitting there at their desks. One man was doing some numbers, and the other was leaning back and graciously chatting with me for a few minutes. We're talking about this very thing. What do we have from school? Well, we have people who are trained in incompetence. They are trained in many ways in consumption. Now, of course, you're going to say, well, my school is different and my son is different. My daughter is different. Well, really, maybe you're right, but let's just see how maybe our confidence in our own children's success and their prospect may be really just illusory. One of my favorite authors is a writer named John Taylor Gatto, and he has a delightful book called Dumbing Us Down, The Hidden Curriculum of Compulsory Schooling, said also on the cover to have strong words from the New York State Teacher of the Year, which he was. He's a noted writer. He's a terrific historian, and I recommend anything he writes, even though he says often very angry things about people like me, right? I'm a Reformed Christian. I believe in the sovereignty of God and God's grace, and speak highly of John Calvin and Martin Luther, and he doesn't, though. But that's okay. I can take a hit. Okay, I can take a hit. But he has a great analysis, and in this book, there's a discussion about how the psychologists such as Thorndike of Columbia and Horace Mann and others brought about a kind of managerial society through the schooling process. They thought that schools were instruments of scientific management, he says, of a mass population. Schools are intended to produce, through the application of formulas, formulaic human beings whose behavior can be predicted and controlled. And he says that to a very great extent, schools succeed in doing this, but in a national order, he says, increasingly disintegrated in a national order in which the only successful people are independent, self-reliant, confident, and individualistic, because community life, which protects the dependent and the weak, is dead, and only networks remain. The products of schooling are, as I've said, irrelevant. Well-schooled people are irrelevant. They can sell film and razor blades, push paper, and talk on telephones, he says, or sit mindlessly before a flickering computer terminal. But as human beings, they are useless to others and useless to themselves. And he says, it sounds rather strong, but the point he's making is that they've not grown up in community. They've not grown up in family. The young people haven't learned a business from their mothers and fathers, or their aunts, or their grandfathers. The daily misery around us is, I think, in large measure caused by the fact that, as Paul Goodman put it 30 years ago, we force children to grow up absurd. Any reform in schooling has to deal with its absurdities. And he says it is absurd and anti-life to be part of a system that compels you to sit in confinement with people of exactly the same age and social class. That system effectively cuts you off from the immense diversity of life. And I like this part. And the synergy of variety. Indeed, it cuts you off from your own past and future, sealing you in a continuous present, much the same way television does. It is absurd and anti-life to move from cell to cell at the sound of a gong for every day of your natural youth in an institution that allows you no privacy and even follows you into the sanctuary of your home, demanding that you do its homework. How will they learn to read, you ask? And my answer is, remember the lessons of Massachusetts. When children are given whole lives instead of age-graded ones in cell blocks, they learn to read, write, and do arithmetic with ease, if those things make sense in the kind of life that unfolds around them. But keep in mind that in the United States, almost nobody who reads, writes, or does arithmetic gets much respect. We are a land of talkers. We pay talkers the most and admire talkers the most. And so do our children. And so our children talk constantly, following the public models of television and school teachers. It is very difficult to teach the basics anymore because they really aren't basic to the society we've made. And what he is complaining about is that schooling, because it's a mass system, makes people that are continually dependent on others, unable to make their own calculations, write their own papers, come up with their own theories, argue their own arguments, constantly seeking affirmation, begging permission, right? Begging permission from the teacher to go to the restroom. And what they've been deprived of is that there's no real world of wisdom, fortitude, temperance, and justice. And that's been converted into a never-ending, non-stop abstraction. In centuries past, the time of childhood and adolescence would have been occupied in real work. Okay, here we go. Real charity, real adventures, and the realistic search for mentors who might teach that what you really wanted to learn. A great deal of time was spent in community pursuits. Do we have communities in Chattanooga and Hamilton County? Well, maybe. We have kind of ersatz communities. We have police departments trying to create them, right? The Chattanooga Police Department is trying to create a community with a new app. You heard about that yesterday. A great deal of time was spent in community pursuits, practicing affection, meeting and studying every level of the community, learning how to make a home, and dozens of other tasks necessary to becoming a whole man or woman. And he laments in his very, very beautifully written works this conversion of communities into networks. We don't have, we are, he says, a country, we would say even a city here in Chattanooga, a city of institutions, and families have been shorn of their riches by the dual income necessity under our paper money scheme, thanks to the banking sector and thanks to the Republican Party, right, and the Democratic Party, and I think we're poor for this system. And what we have to do is say, okay, we're stuck for now. Our paradigms, our way of thinking, our conceptions of ourselves, and what we can do, our liberties are constrained. And so let's just have an exercise. Assume that you know there's a problem with your dependency on the government sector, right? The free little bit of treacle that comes from the public school tit. You think it's nourishing, but it really barely keeps your organs going. And those of your family members, and you know there's a problem. Well, what you have to do then is say, okay, I'm stuck in this system. I can't really get out of it. But what can I do that's free market oriented, that is service oriented? And that I'd like to suggest that could be having your child drop out of sports. Okay, yeah, I know what you're saying. Think about having your child be involved in something other than sports. Sports are a consumption, right? Sports are really an idol, and your son or daughter can get plenty of exercise and exercise his vascular system quite well by a 20-minute walk every other day in the morning, carrying weights. Okay, if that's the purpose, to be healthy, and use that time to say, look, why don't you start a business? I'll help you, my son, 16, to start a business. Let's go and figure out what kind of business you can start so that you can have an income. And by the time you leave the machine, by the time you leave the factory school, you can have an income. And that is something that Hal Bowling has been working on. He's been dealing with people who are kind of trapped in the system, a system of poverty, a system of dependence, of even the idea that what we read and what we think about has to be directed. We have to be directed to by the state, right? The state's actors through the public school system. So Hal Bowling with Launch Chattanooga is involved in that very mission, the very mission of our radio station, in fact, and that is to create a broad and general affection for the idea of service. The service of whom to whom? Well, the service of a supplier of a good or service to someone who's going to buy it, someone who has a need and whose affairs, maybe at home, maybe in business, will be improved with the arrival of you, right? Or maybe your son or daughter whom you are going to fund in business. I really think you need to seriously consider about this. We are the whole sports world is a kind of vital and wonderful attraction and distraction from the real things of life. Your son is never going to become a major basketball star. Okay, I don't care how tall he is and how good he is in his high school team. He's not going to make it. Just get him to understand that these are things that we've elevated beyond their real worth, and so he leaves high school. He's played some games. He has some nice memories, and he got a cheerleader to fall in love with him. Well, now what? Well, now he's got to go to college to figure out what he's going to do with himself, right? What if it were different? What if your son, when he graduates from a public high school here in Chattanooga at age 18, has a little business? Maybe your son could take part in one of Hal Bowling's projects. Hal Bowling, whom we'll talk to in just a minute, runs Launch Chattanooga, and it's a nonprofit organization. It's a 501c3, and its goal is to help people want to do business. And what is that? What is that? It sounds so. You say, oh, it sounds so boring. Want to do business. Well, want to do business simply means I want to serve someone, and I want to serve someone in a sustainable way. That means that I'd like to get paid for what I do so that I can serve not just that person again, right? But serve a second person, right? And then get that person to let me serve him once, twice, thrice. And as I'm doing that, I'm being rewarded. And hey, there's a third person, and I'm going to serve that person with my gift, with my tidbit, right? With my gadget, maybe, with my lawn service. And why what we're happening, what we see is we have profit. Why is profit important? Because profit makes something sustainable. You can't run a yard business. You can't run a landscaping business. You can't run a computer debugging service, a fax repair or a printer repair business if you don't have a profit. Profit is not evil. I don't care how many left-wing professors in the philosophy department at UTC you talk to. It's not evil. Profit is essential for anything to be sustainable. And so your son who's trapped in the public school, you're trapped in the public school. Okay, I'm not saying think free market on this point. Okay, just leave that aside for now. You and I can make a compromise. Okay, I will let you go. I will let you go for now. And meanwhile, you figure out a way to get your son into business. Now, that means selling some shares. That means bring $10,000 home today. Call today and sell and bring the money home. That's part of my larger theory, by the way. Divest national and invest local. Bring the money home and invest in your kid. And maybe Hal Bowling can help him. Maybe others can help him. Maybe someone like me, I'm a business owner. Maybe I can help him. And well, just think for a second about the names you're hearing on our station. We've got Russell the Kid. We have also, in God's good providence, I think, we have a young man named Keon Rose, whom we like greatly, and we're going to say, hey, why don't you help us out by running the mic for us? And we're very confident that you can serve us, and we can serve you, right? It's a mutual relationship. There's not an employment agreement here, of course. It's just you help me, and we, or I, David Toulis, will help you. That's the marketplace, and that's what we want to have. The school system will not let that happen, all right? What we're talking about, it has to happen outside of the factory school, outside of the state paradigm, where everyone is being trained to be a good consumer, a good voter, a good civic-minded person who pays his taxes and is employed, right? We don't need employment anymore. We need entrepreneurship. We need people to start businesses, make a profit, expand their operations, find more people to help, more people to serve, hire people, right? That's the marketplace, and that's what we need to have here in Chattanooga. And my name is David Toulis, and this is AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Hi, I'm Rebecca Costa, host of the Costa Report, every Sunday at 9 a.m. My guest this week was the former U.S. ambassador to Russia and special assistant to President Obama, Mr. Michael McFaul. He'll be here to separate fact from fiction when it comes to Putin's aspirations for Russia. Don't miss Ambassador Michael McFaul this Sunday at 9 a.m. on the Costa Report, right here on WSDT AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio.
Sky Aerial Services uses advanced drone technology to give you a better perspective and depth of your property and project. We offer aerial photography and video for your business, farm, home, or advertising campaigns, as well as editing services to complete the experience. Call us at 423-521-0284 and see how we can help you tell your story about your business, property, or project. We work with real estate professionals, both commercial and residential, developers, engineer inspectors, surveyors, ad agencies, auto and boat dealers, mapping services, insurance inspectors, corporate marketing, charity events, weddings, and photographers. Our consultation is free. Call 423-521-0284. That's 423-521-0284, or visit our website, skyaerialservices.com. Sky Aerial Services.
Here you are,
The
working to keep your customers happy and to manage your cash flow. IRS problems are the last thing you need, but here they are, flapping about you like vultures. Get help from Eric Pelton and his team of accountants at E.J. Pelton Company. Audits, letters, proposed return changes, 1099s, penalty threats. Pelton Tax Resolution Services brings peace of mind and helps you keep more of what you've earned. EJPelton.com. Offices on Brainerd Road and in Saudi Daisy, just north of the Bilo. That's E.J. Pelton. Call 622-3156. Think ahead, 622-3156.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Are you tired of working in corporate America, or have you recently lost your job and would like to consider owning your own business? If you are, please call me, as I can help you look at franchises or business opportunities that fit you, the economy that we're in, and the type of businesses that are right in the greater Chattanooga area. After I help my clients find the right opportunity, I also help them find the best way to finance the business, including paying yourself through the startup phase. If you would like to learn more about opportunities that may be right for you, please call me for a free assessment. My name is Bruce Krebs at the Entrepreneur Source. Phone number is 423-875-5621.
If you have the DTs, the shakes, because your phone is on the fritz, you have nomophobia. You need help. Your telecom doctor is in. Cell Surgeon at Northgate Mall. Cell Surgeon yanks open the ribcage of your phone, pries out the dead heart, and puts in the beating life that you lead on your cell phone. Broken screen, phone not charging, water damage, battery given out? Cell Surgeon at Northgate Mall next Old Chicago Pizza. Check us out on Facebook. Open Sunday. Cell Surgeon. We bring your phone back to life. Mention Hot News Talk Radio and get 10% off.
You want more business. You want to increase your bottom line. You want to spend less on advertising, imaging your business, and general expenses. You need Trade Bank. Trade Bank of Chattanooga. Trade Bank. Call now to get access to nearly 400 local businesses. Trade Bank. Call 877-2202. 877-2202. Trade Bank. You want to increase your cash flow, your competitive edge, attract new customers, and build a loyal customer base. You need Trade Bank of Chattanooga. Call right now. 877-2202. When you join Trade Bank, you'll get the benefit of free advertising in our monthly magazine, tradebank.com, emails, and mailouts. Join Trade Bank now and receive your Trade Bank debit card with trade credits to spend any way you want with our wide variety of Trade Bank partners. For almost 30 years, Trade Bank has been your voice for small business, a member of the American Bankers Association, and in good standing with you. Trade Bank of Chattanooga. Call now for a free consultation. 877-2202. That's 877-2202. Trade Bank of Chattanooga.
If the South would have won, we'd have had it made. I'd probably run for president of
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
WSDT Sunny Daisy, Chattanooga.
CBS News, I'm Frank Sedapani. Chinese authorities are vowing to punish the person or persons responsible for the warehouse explosions in the port city of Tianjin that killed at least 50 people. CBS's Seth Doan tells us the blast felt like an earthquake with a force equal to more than 20 tons of TNT.
Hundreds of cars were left charred shells, and windows were shattered in buildings more than a mile away.
Where is your house? Nidajia Zainar?
Pointing to his apartment, this man told us he was petrified. There was fire. I thought it was a plane crash. The building started shaking, and my wife and I just ran out.
More than 12 hours later, the site is still burning.
The warehouse that blew up was used to store hazardous chemicals. 12 of the dead were firefighters. A county clerk in Kentucky is defying a judge's order to give marriage licenses to same-sex couples. Live to CBS News correspondent Heather Bosch.
Rowan County Clerk Kim Davis is appealing that judge's order, and her attorney says she should not have to comply until her case works its way through the courts. A U.S. district judge had ordered her to abide by the U.S. Supreme Court's decision that gay marriage bans are unconstitutional. But Davis turned away two gay couples today, citing her religious beliefs. In fact, Davis is no longer issuing marriage licenses to any couples now, gay or straight.
One of California's most notorious inmates has been killed in an attack at the new Folsom Prison. Hugo Pinnell's lawyer has no doubt he was targeted for death. Attorney Keith Watley says Pinnell's reputation made him a marked man. That reputation includes slitting the throats of two guards in a failed 1971 prison break.
He's the only person left in prison who's directly associated with that incident. And so he's become, the target.
Pinnell was serving 3 life sentences. ISIS is claiming responsibility for a truck bombing in a Shiite Muslim district of Baghdad. The attack claimed at least 76 lives. Ambulances rushed hundreds of injured survivors to hospitals. Associated Press Baghdad Bureau Chief Vivian Salama.
You had local residents of Sutter City rushing to the scene and carrying corpses on garbage bags and blankets, and you had other people shoving the wounded into their cars and driving people to the hospitals.
In Durango, Colorado, CBS's Maria Villarreal has the latest on the toxic waste that spilled into the Animas River.
Well, the water here is said to be getting back to those pre-incident levels. People downstream are still very concerned. In fact, Utah's governor has declared a state of emergency as that plume heads down toward Lake Powell.
Retail sales rebounded in July, led by higher auto sales. Economist Nariman Baravis says the economy lives and dies with the consumer.
The consumer is really what's keeping growth going. I mean, we expect this year consumer spending will grow between 3 and 3.5%.
The Dow is down 38 points. This is CBS News.
Are you drowning in IRS tax debt that you can't pay? At People's Tax Relief, we have programs available to help you, including our Emergency Mediation of Taxes, or EMT program. If you qualify, you will get a reprieve against collections. Asset seizures will be suspended. Some accrued penalties will be waived, and collections will be suspended altogether. Call People's Tax Relief to find out if you qualify at 800-916-2100. That's 800-916-2100. 800-916-2100.
Have you heard? Proactive Plus is faster and better than ever. Stay tuned for a $1 million bottle giveaway, and you'll also receive free shipping. With Proactive Plus, your acne can heal and you can help prevent new breakouts. Don't miss this limited time offer. We're going to let 1 million people try Proactive Plus risk-free and get 2 free gifts and also receive free shipping when you call right now. Call 800-393-6272. That's 800-393-6272.
A German woman has been reunited with her Italian mother 71 years after World War II forced them apart. CBS's Larry Miller has Margot Bachman's story.
During the war, her mother, a factory worker in Heidelberg, had a romance with a Nazi soldier. Becoming pregnant, she was forced to give the baby to the soldier's family and return to Italy. Bachman's father stopped her looking for her biological mother, but after he died, she began her search with the help of international agencies. On meeting, mother and daughter cried, hugged, and shared champagne. Yet her 91-year-old mother refuses to be identified, still fearing local reprisals for her relationship with a German soldier. Larry Miller, CBS News, London.
Former professional wrestler and one-time Minnesota governor Jesse Ventura body-slammed Donald Trump's hardline stand against illegal immigrants. But Ventura says he hopes Trump wins the Republican presidential nomination. He'd like to be Trump's running mate. Frank Sedapani, CBS News.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240. Live from Chattanooga, Tennessee, it's Nooganomics with David Toulis.
If you have any printing needs, make sure you go to Advantage Printing over in Brainerd. We are, this is the David Toulis Show. David Toulis, thank you for giving me a couple of minutes of your time. We're also sponsored by Superior Air and Jets. We are trying to find out how we can prosper our city and ourselves. We are a show about ideas and maybe even ideals. And to help us explore the ideals of you might say, other-centeredness that lets a man go into business, we're going to talk with Hal Bowling of Launch Chattanooga, which is a 4-year-old nonprofit organization here in town that has 106 businesses under its wing or in the process or already out into the world, already graduated among young people and other entrepreneurs who are getting started or want to start a business here in the area, including David Redd, whose name you know from our interviews in the past. He's the physician who is running Quick Surge, a cash business. He is a doctor running a cash business, very loco-centric, very local economy oriented. So the problem we have, Hal, is that many people don't know about the idea of entrepreneurship. It is an alien concept. They often are obsessing about themselves, their wardrobes, their leisure, their Friday nights, their friends, their sports, and things of that kind, not leading them into thinking about other people's needs and problems, which they possibly could solve with a gift or an idea. What is your work at Launch Chattanooga about?
Well, yeah, I agree with you, David. I mean, and that's just good business principle, in addition to being a good biblical principle or a good, principle to live by. That's a good business principle. I mean, you have to be in touch with your customers. So Launch started in 2011. I had a business myself as a business consultant and worked with a number of small to medium-sized businesses, and I gotten fairly involved with the startup community and just began to see sort of post-recession, particularly working with a client of mine. We just began to think more and more and look more and more at what was happening locally and how people were impacted in Chattanooga by the recession. And it seemed as though that although there were a lot of startup things happening in our city, which is pretty exciting, there was a real need and a much greater need in many of the underserved communities and with some of the demographics that didn't have as strong of a presence with businesses owned. For instance, minorities, women, some of those, where we've got, in our city, 30% African American population and about 10% business ownership. So it's way off of the population. In my mind, it ought to be keeping up at least. So that's where Launch started. So we really set out to sort of identify entrepreneurs, people who had an idea for a business, but maybe didn't know exactly what they wanted to do with it or what they should do with it or where to start. So we're looking to identify entrepreneurs who are women, who are minorities, who may be residents of an underserved community in our city, and help them know where to begin and how to start their business and turn their idea into reality.
Well, how do you find these people? How do you make connections with them? How do you stir perhaps in the heart and mind of one or the other the idea of maybe starting a business?
Well, that for us has just been simply asking the question, you want to learn how to start a business? And we have a lot of people who respond to that. You know, they have something that they want to do, something they've been thinking about, something they've been putting off. And so we're always looking for those folks, whether that be we do heavy marketing in the communities that we serve. So we're always looking for people who are interested in responding to that message.
Well, what is the let's say the psychological or spiritual makeup of a person who wants to start a business? What does he have to have as kind of basic elements of thought or ideas?
Well, really, like a venture capital fund, they look for people more than they look for ideas. You know, they look for people who have a drive, people who have a passion. That's the same thing we're looking for. We're looking for not just good ideas, but people who really are behind those ideas and who have the wherewithal to push and take that idea forward and turn it into something.
So it could be, like as you say, a type of person, not necessarily a person with an idea or a business plan, but someone who's just who may be articulate, perhaps, who's a go-getter, who remembers names and who's particular about personal relationships. That's already good. You might say good personal material for being an entrepreneur.
Sure. But, you know, entrepreneurs take on a lot of different shapes and forms, and I'm not a big proponent that entrepreneurs are born. I think, especially in the climate we live in, people can adapt. People need to adapt. You know, as you mentioned earlier in your segment, if you're looking for a job that's going to really sort of provide security for you long term, in the day and age we live in, it's very rare and not there. If you're starting a business, you can, I think, have a lot more of what you're looking for in longevity and in a career that can really be as secure as possible.
This is David Tulis. We're talking with Hal Bowling. Hal, tell my listener about how you connect with young people in high schools, let's say, such as Howard, Tyner, Brainerd, or perhaps Chattanooga Girls Leadership Academy. What do you say to these young people? Who are they? Why should my listener care about them?
Well, you know, a lot of times I think there's just a real divide in our city. People who live in safe neighborhoods and safe places don't really understand why there's crime and why there are things that go on that they don't understand the rationale behind it, gang activity and that sort of thing. So, you know, there are all these things, but the reality is, I heard it said recently that we have an opportunity crisis in our country, not a talent crisis. And I think that's so true. You know, we have talent everywhere. I mean, we can look in every single pocket, every neighborhood in our community, we can find talent, but opportunities are what we don't have. And so with Launch, we're trying to connect people who may not have good, strong connections with the mainstream business community. We want to see networking happen, relationships built. So in a lot of ways, we're trying to bridge something that right now is not very connected. You know, we have folks that live in neighborhoods and communities that many people avoid. And so are those communities going to get better when there's no attention on them? I don't believe they will. So what the entrepreneurs, particularly in those communities, need is a connection with the business community. So Launch is about sort of providing some of those things. But to answer your question, we have two real focuses to our organization. One is a focus on adult entrepreneurs, and the other is a focus on youth entrepreneurs, teen entrepreneurs. And for the teens, they're both a little different. The teens really, we want to introduce entrepreneurship into the mix. We want students to know that possibilities exist for them to start a business, whether that be right then and there, or whether that be down the road. And so students go through a class at school, and we help facilitate that experience for them, where they basically think about problem solving and creativity and land on an idea. And once they do, they work in a team and build a business plan around that, and then compete at the end of the semester for a cash prize.
And can you tell us about a winner or two among the young people?
Yeah, we've had winners in the past who have Tyner students. Tyner seems to be sort of taking the cake, just so you know. They've done very well over the last couple of years, but in our competition, the competition itself is judged by a group of local investors, so that makes it sort of fun, a little bit Shark Tankish. But the winners have been there were two girls at Tyner that had a concept for basically repurposing a machine. You know, when we were in school, when I was in school, they had school stores. You could get erasers and pencils and those kind of things. But these days they don't have those. So this was a repurposed vending machine that sold everything that students tend to forget. And so Tyner School allowed them to install that there. And, you know, it was a great thing. They really got to see, they wrapped it. It was very cool looking, and it served a great purpose.
Well, how did it work once it was in the market? Did it last? Did it break down? Did it require expensive maintenance?
Yeah, those are great questions.
Beyond the budget.
It worked for a time. The girls graduated, and the machine had to be moved to another location, essentially. But it worked.
So it was retired.
It's sort of retired, yeah.
Okay.
But then there's also the guys who have the mop bucket that we were talking about earlier, and they basically one of them worked at a fast food restaurant and had to clean constantly the end of the night shift, mopping the floor and that kind of thing. The drain was constantly getting clogged. It was a real pain, nasty water. And so he developed with his teammates and going through our program this mop bucket that basically filters water, kind of a constant cleaning of the water so that doesn't happen. And right now they're prototyping it. Well, they developed prototypes and they're piloting it in a local restaurant chain here, and so that's a lot of fun. They're getting good feedback. They're getting results. They're going to do that a few more times, and then they're going to try to take it to market.
Well, how did they obtain capital for this self-cleaning mop bucket?
Well,
is that prize?
We offer the cash prize we offer really allows the business to sort of get off the ground, or at least go through that phase where they're piloting, starting, that kind of thing. And then there are other investors that, you know, have expressed an interest if they get through that pilot phase, they still want to keep going.
Now, are those investors men of charitable spirit, or are they looking at everything in very hard dollar terms?
No, I think they're charitable spirit. It's patient capital investment.
I'm glad you brought that word up, Hal Bowling. This is David Toulis. We're talking with Hal Bowling, who started and oversees Launch Chattanooga. It's a nonprofit organization that is helping grown-ups and young people find their way into being entrepreneurs. What is patient capital, and why should my listener think in terms of patient capital rather than in the more rapacious forms of capital, which we think about when we buy and sell stock out of the New York Stock Exchange?
Well, I'm not an expert in patient capital. Let me say that, or capital.
Go ahead. You can still answer it.
My quick version of that. I mean, I think the logic behind patient capital is essentially that we have gotten used to this idea of investment with large returns, quick returns, and patient capital is the idea that possibly that might be a little flawed. At least if you have a portfolio, some of that portfolio could be an investment in things that have a multiple bottom line return. In other words, it's not just only good for making money, but it actually is good for communities, for people. They're things that can make life better for everyone. And so at the same time, it doesn't mean that there's no return. It's just a longer return. Be patient, and your return will come, is the idea.
Well, I think you're right. Patient capital implies, as you said, there's a kind of charitable spirit, and the investor is he's reaping a reward of capital that's not monetary. You can't measure it in dollars and cents. You can't report it on a tax return if you have a profit or a loss, and it implies it's also not liquid, which means you can't jump in and jump out if you're investing in the Tyner students' self-cleaning mop bucket. You say, well, maybe they'll pay me back, and I hope so, but I'm going to do everything I can to help them. And the reward you have, even if you end up reporting a loss for let's say 2016, if it doesn't turn out, if it fizzles, you say, well, I've helped someone do something, and I'm willing to accept that. We're not talking about a large amount here, maybe just a couple $1,000s, and so you're willing to take that. And that's because you have a lococentric perspective, right? Your patience and your capitalism has a human connection. It's not just about dollars. It's not, as it were, idolizing the dollar and the return. There's more to capital than just money. There are people involved, and the patient investor is thinking in terms of town, neighborhood, identity with place, and so on.
That's it. Yeah.
Well, so really, Launch Chattanooga you're really thinking about local economy. You have a very local-centric perspective. You're trying to help people here, right? You're not trying to help people in Seattle, are you?
That's right. But let me say this. Well, you're exactly right. The local economy and individuals locally is the primary focus of our organization and our efforts, and I think that's where it needs to be. But I do believe that there is a larger problem. There's a book called The Coming Jobs War written by Jim Clifton. Jim Clifton heads the Gallup Institute, and I think globally have done more research than probably any other organization. Basically, what he says is 7 million people on the planet, 5 million of those over 15 years old. Of those 5 million, 3 million, I've said million, billion, this is billion, 7 billion on the planet, 5 billion who are over 15, 3 billion who say that I either want to work or I currently am working. And the problem is there's 1.2 billion jobs available. These are formal jobs that provide more than 30 plus hours. So basically, that's the big global problem. We've got a 1.8 million, a billion, I keep saying million, billion job shortage in the world. How does that affect Chattanooga? Well, in all kinds of ways, because the world's a lot smaller than it used to be. And we're affected greatly by other economies and other places. But we have the same issue here. People with job shortage, either there aren't enough jobs to go around, or people are not trained for the jobs that exist. And we have a lot of jobs, like you said. We've got job signs out that say, "Hey, hiring." The problem is for a lot of folks, a minimum wage job is just not something that they can do to pay their bills. And so that's why where I think we come in. Launch is empowering individuals to start their own business, whether that be full-time or part-time. If you've got a job, you can do something on the side. And so, we work with a lot of entrepreneurs who want to do something on the side either they can supplement their income with and potentially move into full-time down the road. So we've had 106 businesses that have started since 2011 when we started. And those businesses, there's a 92% survival rate of those 106. So that's pretty strong, maybe a little too strong. I think that's still going to settle itself out over time. But these businesses are all very small, in some ways not very exciting, but they're all generating revenue for the business owner. They're allowing them in some cases to hire folks. Those 106 businesses have created 135 jobs. So we're talking about, real grassroots sort of, this is where it comes from when we talk about jobs in America, jobs in our community, I think.
Well, Hal Bowling, how can my listener get a hold of you, and what is the website for Launch Chattanooga?
Well, our website is launchchattanooga.org. We do have a couple of classes coming up. We'll be starting again with the high school students at those high schools you mentioned, Brainerd, Tyner, Howard, and Chattanooga Girls Leadership Academy. But if you're interested in being part of our class, that class starts September 14th, the week of September 14th. And we are excited about that and would love to have anyone who's interested in being part of that to contact us about being part of that class. You can sign up on our website, launchchattanooga.org. Launchchattanooga.org is the name of the organization. You can learn more about it. Right now, it's going to be held Monday or Tuesday night in 2 different locations. And so we.
How long is each class?
They're 10 weeks, 1 night a week for 3 hours. So it's a long evening. It's only 1 night a week, and that lasts 10 weeks. And really, it's soup to nuts. You come into that, and you're sort of experiencing everything that an entrepreneur needs to know about starting a business from start to finish.
Is there anything unconventional in the protocols you propose, Hal Bowling, or is it all sort of somehow conventional? Become an SP or incorporate, or how where does your theory fit in that sense?
Well, really more about just taking someone with an idea and helping them turn that into reality. That's the main thing. We want people. It's much more practical. Let's don't get hung up on the details if we don't necessarily have to do that. But we do have a lot of folks that are starting up businesses.
Well, your discussion a moment ago about the Gallup organization's author's book about the coming jobs war seems to me to come from the whole paradigm of public education, and you might say the cartel of the schooling cartel and its control really of the lives of young people. But is there no way to think of greater prosperity for Chattanooga by getting beyond the legacy system of schooling, where everyone is effectively treated like a piece of cattle, and there's no individuality. There's no connection between the inmates of a school and the real world, such as the one you live. You're an entrepreneur in the nonprofit sector, but you're a businessman. Schooling doesn't really allow for that. It can. So I'm wondering if that book's gloomy prognosis is somehow trapped in the old idea of schooling as a national necessity, one that consumes much of public life.
It might be, I suppose you could say that, but I think that I'm fascinated by the amount of data that they collect and what the head of that organization has come to when he says basically the next world war we're going to have is over that short.
The next world war?
1.8 billion jobs.
A war, a military conflict.
Potentially, because
wow.
We're talking about people's livelihoods and they don't have it. But regardless, I don't think we could wait for the school system to turn around and for them
to disappear
or to promote things like entrepreneurship. And so we're hoping to do that while there's the problem, while it exists. And this is a need-based problem.
Well, you're being very realistic at Launch Chattanooga. You can't change that system. You can't change the fact that it locks up people and their time and it consumes their energies. You're saying, okay, that's there, but we have a mission here at Launch Chattanooga to get people to think in terms of service to the other, to think in terms of profit, and creating capital, creating a reserve. All of which, that whole effort, especially in the mind of a young person, requires great self-discipline.
Yeah, you're right about that.
And self-discipline is in short supply among the young, I'm hearing.
Yes. Well, the students though that we're running into are so impressive to me. I'm meeting kids who get into this idea. They see it for the first time and they actually see that there's something out there for them potentially. We have, lots of our students who are going on to school and studying business and they never thought they were interested in business. And just anything I think that can engage a student, whether that's art or business or medicine or anything, is a positive thing. So we want to keep seeing that happen, and entrepreneurship is a great way to do that because there's a financial element as well as a creative element.
We'll say something right quick, Hal Bowling, about the Connect program. What's that about? You just had it.
Yeah, that was our summer program, and we just really had a great time with the students who'd already been through our high school program. It was just a further continuation of that for the ones that are more developed and more ready to go.
And that's every summer in June.
That's right.
And so the one that was ending this past June 19th, was that the third installment of the program?
Yes, fall, spring, and summer.
Now, how can my listener get a hold of you, Hal?
Go to our website, launchchattanooga.org, launchchattanooga.org. Our phone number is there as well.
This is David Toulis, and I do thank you, my listener, for joining Hal Bowling and me here at our all talk station. Hal Bowling runs and founded Launch Chattanooga, and it's launchchattanooga.org if you want to find out more. And we certainly encourage you, our listener, the investor, to look into supporting some of these young people. This is David Toulis, and I've got some things I want you to hear.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Hi, I'm Rebecca Costa, host of the Costa Report, every Sunday at 9 a.m. My guest this week was the former U.S. ambassador to Russia and special assistant to President Obama, Mr. Michael McFaul. He'll be here to separate fact from fiction when it comes to Putin's aspirations for Russia. Don't miss Ambassador Michael McFaul this Sunday at 9 a.m. on the Costa Report, right here on WSDT AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio.
When my brother and I opened our first Jets Pizza, we believed if we made the best pizza, customers would find us. So we made fresh dough each day, used fresh toppings, and premium mozzarella cheese. 300 plus stores later, we still do. Try Jet's famous 8-corner pizza with premium mozzarella cheese and one topping, now just $11.99 for a limited time only. Jet's Pizza, the best pizza in town. 3600 Hickson Pike. Life is short. Eat better pizza.
Let's get Jets. You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
We've got a table here at Delia's in Saudi Daisy, ready to delight in a plate of authentic Mexican food. Delia's spreads a rich selection: loaded nachos, crazy chicken, homemade tamales, maybe the enchiladas with beef, chicken, pork, quesadillas. Every dish beautifully pictured on the menu to help us decide. Join us for lunch or dinner. We're at Delia's in Saudi Daisy on Dayton Pike near the Thrasher Light. Here's dinner. Delia's uses the freshest ingredients, cooked to perfection. Nachos, homemade. Delia's open every day except the Lord's Day. For lunch and dinner, treat yourself to Delia's genuine Mexican food. In Saudi, call 521-7145. That's 521-7145.
Do you feel better outside your home or business than in? Indoor air quality is important. Mildew, mold, smoke, water, and rodent damage are prime causes of poor indoor air quality. Ducts, Indoor Air Professionals, better known as Duct Busters, cleans HVAC systems using 127 definable Duct Busters steps. Let Mark Thompson address the indoor air quality at your business to help reduce employee illnesses. Prevent fires by cleaning your dryer vents. Mark and his parents, Dick and Joan Thompson, have been building our local economy and helping local people with HVAC systems 16 years. Ducts, Indoor Air Professionals. Call 876-9907. 876-9907. Ducts. Call now.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Here comes Dale Earnhardt Jr. He's got third. He's going for second. Earnhardt going for the lead.
The NASCAR Sprint Cup Series is on the Motor Racing Network. Coverage continues Sunday here at Live on the Motor Racing Network, the voice of NASCAR.
Check it out live on Chattanooga's official NASCAR radio station.
News Talk 1240.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
If the South would have won, we'd have had it made. I'd probably run for president of the southern states. The day Elvis passed away would be our national holiday. If the South would have won, we'd have had it made.
NASCAR, Laura Ingraham, David Toulis, Coast to Coast AM, and CBS Radio News. Chattanooga's news, talk, and sports leader.
News Talk 1240.
Fox News Radio. I'm Lillian Wu. The head of the EPA seeing the toxic river spill firsthand, visiting Farmington, New Mexico, a day after speaking to residents in Durango, Colorado, saying
new samples from the Animas River show the water quality is improving.
The levels have returned to pre-event conditions.
On Wednesday, Gina McCarthy visited the spill site, calling it heartbreaking. She also met with Governor John Hickenlooper to coordinate the spill response.
Fox Radio's Tanya J. Powers. Blasts at a warehouse leaving 50 people dead in Tianjin, China, a dozen of them firefighters, 700 people hurt.
Some victims are hit by flying shrapnel. Among the damage, thousands of new cars destroyed. Tianjin, the main shipping gateway to factories in the Beijing area.
Fox Radio's Alistair Wanklin and a Kentucky clerk's office refusing to give a gay couple a marriage license in defiance of a federal judge's order. Fox News, we report. You decide.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Live from Chattanooga, Tennessee, it's Nooganomics with David Toulis.
Notice the language. A clerk is defiant of a federal judge's order. That's a reference to Rowan County Clerk Kim Davis, who says that she is not going to issue poofter marriage licenses, as that would not be right for her to do. She has a conviction of conscience, and upon that, on that platform of her conscience, she is standing firm and saying that she cannot be made to perform a ministerial function, a government function, in recording and licensing a gay or same-sex union. County clerks in Kentucky issue marriage licenses, but someone else, it is reported, must solemnize the marriage before the license can be filed with the county clerk. She has argued that issuing a license to marry that contains her signature is the same as her personally approving the marriage, which she said is impossible for her as a Christian. So in other words, she's connecting her signature in her office with her signature as her person, making the two indistinguishable, having probably been voted into that position. As we are here in Helmand County, county clerks are voted into office. They are constitutional officers, as Bill Knowles is. And her argument is, well, I can't sign that form because my person is indistinguishable from my person in office, and I cannot sign the form as an office holder apart from my person as a woman. Her name is Kim Davis. And the reporting, though, is the word defiant always suggests that someone is in a losing cause fighting one of greater authority. Do we not understand that Iran is defiant, right? Countries with whom the Americans are at odds are defiant of Washington. Russia is defiant. Somehow all the reporting in America always makes the American side the good guys who are right, virtuous, holy, and true. And the party in Iran, the mullah in Iran, or the official in Moscow is the bad guy who's just holding firm even though he's wrong. He's going to lose, and he's going to have to give in at some point because, well, he's just defiant. Well, you cannot maintain defiance for long in the American framework, as that CBS Radio News report suggests. Not that I'm faulting CBS Radio News, mind you. CBS Radio News is the absolute best in the world in radio, and we are the CBS Radio News station here at AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. And my name is David Toulis, and I run the number 4 show. I'm struggling to get at least into number 3, but I've got really strong competition, namely Russell the Kid at noon, just ahead. At noon is Digital Drive with Russell. And the number 2 spot probably held by Sean Hannity, the great neoconservative mouthpiece, great arguer, a fine host, very conservative man. And you, my listener, I think you're probably conservative, and what you're listening to our station because you think that there's fresh material supporting, edifying, strengthening the conviction that you have that really the family is right, the ancient republic is right, constitutional government is right, the free market is right. Maybe the Republicans, they may be right, if they could just stand for principle, they'd be better. And so that is our station, and we are the station here in Chattanooga, of which I'm the number 4 host, making the argument for the marketplace. The number 3 host is just in front of me, and I'm straining, I'm sweating. I really am sweating, and you can see just above my sawed-off bow tie the dark line forming on the collar of my shirt, as perspiration beads down my jaw and my neck there with the uncut whisker, and darkens the collar. I'm straining to get ahead, and I'm just kind of stuck in number 4. So I'll just accept that. I'll accept that position, and our radio station accepts that position. We are the feisty, scrappy station, all tech, very high tech station that makes the case for the marketplace and for Nougat-centrism. Now, that's not trademarked. I will let you use that on your literature if you want, but it is my devising as far as I know, and feel free to use it. It's public property. It is a common property here in Hamilton County. We are Nougat-centric. We think that somehow in God's whimsy that we are the center of the world, and we'd like people who are far away to stop telling us what to do. Let us govern ourselves. Let us live our own lives. Let us be self-determining, right? And let us do so with amity and not have to resort to firearms. Firearms are so boring. They're so boring. And they're so noisy, and they leave dead people lying around. That's not what we care about at all. We want there to be an amicable parting of ways. Maybe if we can just have a little bit of more character. We're trying to find character and counting on the work of the church here at our radio station to really bring people into a better connection with equity. Equity, of course, is justice, and we find equity best expressed in the scriptures, the Christian scriptures that posit a sovereign God gracious to saving sinful men from their deserved perdition, and bringing about free markets and capitalism and education and joy of living, right? Joy of living that's hard to find sometimes in a highly digitized, screen-oriented society, and kind of abstract thing where everything is monetized, where even human relations are monetized, and no one does anything for another person. Personally, he does it only if he can make a profit. There's a real problem out there in national economy, and we can see it having seeped into local economy, poisoning things here in Chattanooga. And I'm working as a writer at Nouganomics.com to improve that one person at a time. And I do believe that we can't change things by masses. We have to change things one person at a time. And that's why I'm a writer. My website that has some ferocious material out today is Nouganomics.com. And I'd say the piece that I'm really rooting for is the headline is "You, 9 other relators can toss Haslam out on his limp wrist." That's a bit of headline ease, but it's about It's about an overlooked statute that basically builds into the law a revolution, you might say, or I would say a counter-revolution. And the counter-revolution is so that you and 9 other people can overturn the revolution that's going almost in the tradition of Lenin, right? Going on in places of authority in Tennessee and in Washington. And the Relator is, just in a nutshell, the Relator is a provision that in the removal of office part title of the Tennessee Code that lets common people, citizens and freeholders, they're called, to file a complaint and sue even the governor and have him tried in local court. And I explain why it has to be in local court, and that if the state were defending the governor, they might say, no, it has to be tried in Davidson County Chancery Court. And I'd say, well, no, the rules under the Uniform Administrative Procedures Act, the UAPA, don't apply to this case. It does not have to be held in Davidson County at all. It is filed wherever the case is filed against the governor for bringing us poofter unions. That is the locale. That is the venue where the governor has to face the judge. Now, think about that. Think about Pam Fleener in Chancery Court hearing a case in which she judges Governor Bill Haslam. Think about that. Bill Haslam has been sued by you and 9 other men who have filed a complaint according to the statute. Now, this is written up in today at the only website that covers this topic, and that is Newaof.com. And it's let me find the title. It's Title 8, Chapter 47, right? And one of the first volumes of the Tennessee Code. It explains how you, my listener, can throw out Governor Haslam. You can participate in 1/9 of the mental and moral energy that it would take to bring that man to bar here in Hamilton County. I think that's just a remarkable proposition. And if you're going to find out more about that, you have to read, okay? Don't take my word for it. You have to read something, right? You have to become a bit more informed. And that's what Newaof.com is all about, of which I'm the editor. That, of course, you could say that like Superior Air, like Jets Pizza, Newaof.com is the sponsor of my show. My name is David Toulis, and I'm so glad that you are giving me just a couple of minutes of your time. Well, there's something we want to get to that comes out of the offices of Clancy Covert, Red Bank attorney, with whom I've had some dealings in the way of finding out about the abuses of the state against the traveling public, that abuse being the civil asset forfeiture statute, of which he had recently defended a Chattanooga college student who had his parents' car stolen from him because he had a bit of illicit narcotics, right, in the car. And the story that moved yesterday is about a man named Ferriera. Okay, now that's a Spanish name, and it's Ferriera. So I'd say that's Ferriera, or Ferriera, I guess, if you're saying it in English, right, or saying that in American. It's Joshua Ferriera, who was beaten up by Hamilton County deputies, according to Clancy Covert's summation in a case filed a couple days ago, filed actually August the 7th in circuit court in Hamilton County. So Ferriera, his first name is Joshua, middle name is Polo, P-O-L-O, and he's suing Deputy Jeremy Wright. Now, this is interesting, in his individual capacity and also as agent for Hamilton County and Hamilton County Sheriff's Department. And then 12 John Does, in other words, a gang of other officers are being, their identities will be found out on videotape and scheduling, and it will be determined who the other alleged malefactors are in beating up this defendant. Now this is a case that we mentioned because our concern is that there is a lack of respect, a lack of care for members of the public, and it is easy when you are a police officer with a pistol on your side. But that pistol makes you constantly in danger, right? Because you have a pistol, you are constantly feeling personally and violently threatened because the assailant, right, the man who's having a temper tantrum, might take your gun, and so you have to abuse him properly so that he won't reach for your service weapon and shoot you, right? That's the reasoning behind rough treatment of people who are in jail, right? Even people who are bound, as Joshua Ferriera was bound in the evening in question. And so I like reading lawsuits because I like to have in my computer lawsuits ready to go, right? In other words, lawsuits that if I have the form down, I can simply write in the statutory provisions under which I'm claiming demand for compensation, and then the details, right? Every paragraph is numbered, right? You've got the certain form, you've got the introduction, you have the jurisdiction and venue statement, you have the parties statement. These are all specific, each with its own line. And then, of course, you have the factual basis of the claim. In other words, the fact base of Joshua Ferriera, as elicited from him by Clancy Covert and another attorney, Lee Ortwine. I believe that Ortwine is in the covert law practice in Red Bank. And so this is in August 2014, and the plaintiff, right, the man who's filing the lawsuit demanding $3 million, is taken into custody by the Hamilton County Sheriff's Office, including Jeremy Wright and then these other people. Now, why would anyone sue a state actor in his individual capacity? Well, you do that to make it personally hurt, and you can do that when the action in view for which you are filing a claim is outside the scope of authority of the man who is acting as an agent of the county. And in other words, so if you're abused, are you abused as part of the official office of the man, or are you abused somehow apart from his official office? And that may be a kind of a fuzzy area, but the claim is that he was acting outside of policy, acting outside of his statutory authority in corralling this man who was a prisoner, right? He's a prisoner and had been taken from Erlanger Medical Center because he had been injured during his arrest. And so the narrative goes at point 15. Once inside the jail, plaintiff was forcibly slammed into the counter by the defendant and Jeremy Wright and the other John Doe defendants, and such actions subjected the handcuffed and restrained plaintiff to cruel and unusual punishment, assault, battery, humiliation, and torture. This is David Toulis. Caller, you're on the air.
Great information, David. I'd like to be one of the 10. So that now we just need 9 people.
You're talking about the relator provisions in the Tennessee Code?
Yeah. Where do I text you or email you, or how do I volunteer to become one of the 10?
Well, I'm wondering if we can find maybe there. The caller is asking about an essay that's at Newaof.com today. It's the second piece that I put out. Newaof.com being our one of our chief sponsors, and I'm the editor of it. And it's about the Relator statute that lets 10 people in a city sue a mayor, or 10 people in a county sue a county mayor, let's say, or a county commissioner, or 10 people in a state to sue and remove from office a state actor such as the governor or anybody else. A state Supreme Court justice could be sued under this provision. Well, how do you do it? Well, there has to be, first of all, a group of 10. That's the minimum number. My caller needs to know, and they have to have a sense of courage. They have to have a sense of indignation, and also I think the idea that Tennessee and Tennesseans can redeem back some of the virtue that our marriage law represents. The marriage law, passed by 81% of the voters in 2006, says only a man and a woman can marry. And here we have the Obergefell decision, which poofterizes the whole country and destroys our federal system of government with individual states with their own law systems. And here in Tennessee, we have marriage as something that's regulated by the state. Perhaps it shouldn't be, but insofar as it is regulated, it's regulated in a biblical manner. Only men and only women can marry each other. And so the caller is asking about 10 people. Well, all right, if you're number 1, let's say that I'm number 2, okay? That means that our listener could be number 3, and there simply has to be a meeting. But then what has to happen there is a complaint has to be drawn up, and as I indicate, the statute, which is in the Tennessee Code, I think it's in Title 8, Chapter. Well, I forgot the chapter now, but just look at Newaof.com. Yeah, Chapter. Well, it requires that there be essentially an indictment. An indictment, it doesn't have to have any particular form, but I would say, but it should have some of the basics of an indictment, which would be the party being sued, the grounds of the suit, the facts of the suit. In other words, what happened the day after Obergefell announced, actually was the day that it was announced. It was a Tuesday. Everybody fell into line. Everybody's oath of office suddenly disappeared, and everyone said, "Okay, we're now a gay marriage state." And the offense, of course, is against the federal constitution and the state constitution. So the committee has to draw up its papers, and the papers can be amended, but the process for suing the governor and unseating him in court, in a local court, is very expedited. It's very fast. The process is intended to kind of rush the system, rush the matter through. And the trial is prosecuted by the Attorney General. Well, I would say probably not, but the statute requires the Attorney General to help the relators, and they're called relators because they relate a grievance of the state and its people against the state actor, namely Governor Haslam.
Well, I have down here, I know you mentioned Hot News Talk Radio at Gmail. Is that where I could email you, and then anybody else?
Yeah, you can try that. You can try that, or you can contact me, David Toulis, through my website, which is nuganomics.com. There's a contact window, and you can call me there. But I'm not.
You know what I often ask myself, and why commentators and guys like you on the radio don't ask this question of all politicians, is what if the Supreme Court said it was okay to take the life of a baby up until it was a month old? Well, it would be 10 months, 9 months in the womb. And that would the sheriff allow that to happen? Would he allow these murder centers to kill babies up until they were a month out of the womb? And would they use the Supreme Court as an excuse, or would the governor then back that, or would they take a stand? Would they say what they're saying now? The Supreme Court say is final, and our hands are bound by the law. Or would they allow these babies to be slaughtered, or let's say gassed in a gas chamber, or let's say a certain illegal aliens that are here without a proper visa and a green card? They need to be interned. I mean, how far are they going to go under the guise of the law?
Well, that's a good question, but don't forget, caller, we've already had the scenario you described, not at 10 months, but at 9 months, and that's Roe versus Wade. We've been under Roe versus Wade for 45 years, almost half a century, and tens of thousands of Tennessee babies, boys and girls, have been destroyed. And Tennessee is a haven for moms who want to destroy their heirs, and they're flocking to Tennessee from all around.
The sheriff or anyone else who's an official, if the Supreme Court says it's okay to kids born, would you allow it to happen in your jurisdiction? That's a yes or no question.
Well,
yes or no answer.
That is a yes or no question, and I think as we would if we are interrogating, if our committee is interrogating Governor Haslam on the stand and listening testimony from him, we would be asking yes or no questions. Let me ask you this, caller: what would be a yes or no question that we would ask of Governor Haslam if we 10 sued him, brought him to Judge Pam Fleener's court in Chancery in Hamilton County, and had him on the stand trying to oust him? What questions would you ask him that are of a yes or no variety? Give me one.
Two primary questions. Do you believe the state of Tennessee is a Republican form of government whereby the citizens determine, ultimately choose, or how they choose to govern themselves in the state of Tennessee?
Okay, he says yes. All right, what's the next question?
The next question is, did the individuals of Tennessee determine that marriage is between a man and a woman?
The answer is yes.
Do you believe, as the governor, the federal government supersedes your authority in the state of Tennessee?
Okay, the answer to that is the Governor Haslam will say yes in trial.
And then, okay, that's treason against the citizens. The people that aren't from Tennessee are legally considered aliens. If you're from Pennsylvania, you're an alien.
Well, here's the fourth question. The fourth question to Governor Haslam: if the committee of 10 from Chattanooga sues him and seeks to oust him, has him on trial in Chancery, Criminal, or Circuit Court in Hamilton County, the fourth question is this: when you took an oath to uphold the Constitution, Bill, did you swear to uphold the marriage amendment that the people passed in 2006? Yes or no? Now, if he says yes, then it's obviously that he is violating his oath, because he has let this federal opinion, this erstwhile opinion, overturn that provision. If he says no, then why is he in office if he didn't swear to uphold all of the Constitution? So either way, he really can't answer right.
Right. Great question, but it'll be objected to as a forked question, but still a great question.
Well, what I want our listener to think about is that people complain about gay marriage, people complain about wimpy Republican government, but here's a means that my listener and 9 other people can use to do something about it. We don't have to sit here. We don't have to just take it. And I think a lot of people say, well, if I can just post a meme on Facebook and make a nasty comment about the governor or about gays or about marriage, I'm going to be okay. Let me ask you this. Do you think that that's enough? Does that really accomplish anything?
No, I really don't. And
I don't either.
Even if you were to lose, or we were to lose, we're going to be getting attention. And they're going to have to justify why they're not going to show up in Chancery Court, because they won't.
Well, this is David Toulis, and our show is the David Toulis Show, and sponsored by Newaof.com. I'm really glad you are giving me a couple of minutes of your time. We are sponsored by Superior Air and Jets Pizza, and I want you to make sure that if you are wanting to serve your business by reducing your use of cash, that you become, as we are members of Trade Bank of Chattanooga, the smarter way to barter and to improve your cash flow by trading among 400 local businesses in every field. You can learn more by talking with Jürgen Mutz, the German with the southern twang, at 877-2202. This is David Toulis, and the argument I'm making at Newaof.com, the website for the man who matters, is that people can put things into their own hands. We don't have to just take it. But I think, though, somehow there's such spiritual laxity in Hamilton County and Chattanooga that even Christian ministers who read my story will simply say, well, that sure is interesting, and no one will do anything about it. I'm afraid that there's this incredible apathy. No one cares for marriage. No one really cares for a righteous governor, righteous government. We are hurting on account of that indifference.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Hi, I'm Rebecca Costa, host